A legal expert says this is the most lawsuits at one time they have seen filed against the state of Iowa in years. Local 5's Connor O'Neill is here now to break down how soon we could see decisions in the legal system and what laws are on the line.
Yeah, Stephanie, we could see the first major decision by Friday as the Iowa Supreme Court could decide whether the state's law banning abortion at around 6 weeks could take effect. A back-and-forth battle between the courts and the state dating back to last summer. The state Supreme Court could decide this week the state's blocked abortion law can go into effect, which bans most abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy.
If they uphold the 6-week ban, that there will be more legislation coming. And that other legislation could impose other restrictions that might be federally appealed.
That's Drake Law Professor Sally Frank, who lobbied against the law during last year's special session. We asked her about another lawsuit against state officials, which made moves 2 weeks ago. A federal judge temporarily blocked a state law allowing Iowan law enforcement to file charges against and deport people with outstanding deportation orders or who previously had been denied entry to the United States. Since then, State Attorney General Brenna Bird has filed an appeal against the injunction. Also 2 weeks ago, 2 Iowa-based beverage manufacturers sued the State Department of Health and Human Services over a law restricting the amount of THC in consumable hemp products. Manufacturers wanted an injunction placed in the law, which is set to take effect on Monday, because the plaintiffs state this legislation forces them to destroy about 80% of their products. And lastly, LGBTQ plus Iowans sued the state last year regarding Iowa's education law that in part prohibits teachers from raising gender identity and sexual orientation issues with younger students. The lawsuit states this law led school districts to remove hundreds of books from its libraries. Back in December, a district judge partially blocked the law's enforcement, but the state appealed and argues it wants to affirm parents' rights and protect children. And with that last lawsuit that I just mentioned pertaining to education instruction, a federal court heard oral arguments on this case earlier this month, but has not mentioned when a ruling will drop. Stephanie.